In this video, I will be talking about gutters in hand knitting. Gutters happen in hand knitting when one or the other of our knit or our purl stitches are slightly larger than the other. On the right side of the fabric, this will look like these little bumps. Now, sometimes on the right side of the fabric, it's much more subtle than this. This is very exaggerated, but when we turn our work to the wrong side, we can see these alternating gutters. And there are 2 rows and then a gutter, 2 rows and a gutter. So this tells me that it is either the knit, all of the knits, or all of the purls that are enlarged and not the other stitch. So first you need to identify whether it is the knits or the purls. And one way, there's several ways to do this. You can knit a swatch like this, just cast on a good number of stitches and knit several inches. Every time you go to knit, make a knit stitch and place a stitch marker on that first knit stitch. And do that all the way up. And that can help you identify which rows are your knit rows. And then when you look, if the knit row is the one that is at a gap row, then your knit stitches are larger. If the other row is the larger row, then it's your purl stitches. Another method is to use different colors. So use one color for your knit row, switch and purl across in a different color. Now this can be tricky because sometimes the eye can play tricks on you, and the different color could appear to be a gutter when it is not actually a gutter. So just be careful when you're using that method. So once you've identified whether it is your knits or your purls, usually for throwers, the purl stitches are larger. Now, not always. And then usually for continental, the knit stitches are larger, but again, not always. So what can you do then to tighten those stitches up? Well, one method would be to use a smaller needle when you are working. So say your purl stitches are larger. You could use a smaller needle when you're working a purl row and a larger needle when you're working a knit row. If you're using a circular needle, an interchangeable circular needle, attach the smaller needle tip to one end and the larger to the other. And when you are purling across, you can be using the smaller needle tip to size as your right hand needle. And when you're knitting across, you can be using the larger needle tip to knit across. Now this will not work. However, it's kind of a cheat. You're not actually fixing the problem, you're masking the problem. And so this won't work if you've got, knits and purls mixed in a row, if you've got lace or any other complicated stitch pattern. So to actually fix the problem, what you need to do is work on tightening up the particular stitch that is the culprit. So for me, my purls want to be larger. And what I did to help remedy that is I tension tighter when I make my purl stitches. So they just naturally now, because I've practiced, become tighter. So they more match my knitting gauge. So, work on adding finger wraps to add some extra tension in there. Try a different knitting style, Portuguese knitting or continental if you're a thrower, that kind of thing. Or just pay attention and make those stitches all the way across slightly tighter until it just becomes habit that you make those slightly tighter. And the same goes for knit stitches. If it's your knit stitches that are slightly tighter, work on tensioning that yarn more tightly as you make those stitches. Another option for if it's your pearls that are loose, if they're very loose, you could wrap the pearl the other way, like so. But those stitches are going to be mounted the opposite way when we turn this work around. Typically, a stitch is mounted with its right leg in front on the needle. So if I wrap backwards, then when I turn this, the right leg is mounted in the back instead of in the front. So to fix this and end up not with twisted stitches, you want to knit those stitches through the back loop, like so. So that can help tighten up loose purl stitches. So those are some methods of trying to alleviate a guttering problem. Thanks for watching.